Hello, welcome. I am Bo Corkins, and this is Statistics. I want to discuss just the beginnings of statistics. So, way too often we get all the way through a course and people still can't define statistics, not really. So, I want to make sure that you understand what statistics is. So let's start out, all right, with the singular, right? Statistics, the discipline, is a way of reasoning, a collection of tools and methods designed to help us understand the world. That's the class you're in. All right, now notice that's the singular. Now notice the next question. What are statistics? All right, statistics, the plural, are the actual calculations, all right, that are made from data, mean, median, mode, right? The ones that everyone's most familiar with, at least. All right. The actual values that are calculated from big sets of data. That's what are statistics. So we talked about statistics being calculated from data. So what are data? Now notice that that is plural as well. What are data? Data itself is a plural. All right. The singular of data is datum. So, all right, data, all right, is a value with context. And that's the important thing. Data is not just numbers. And that is a huge, huge mistake that people make. That they're like, oh, it's just the values. No, no. The value and the context. That's what creates data. Otherwise, it's just numbers, right? Data is different from numbers. So what is statistics really about? Statistics is actually about variation. Now, I understand mean, median, and mode, right? The three M's. That's what everyone learns and is familiar with. But data is actually about the spread, variation. And we are going to investigate that because statistics is about center and spread. Also, as a note, data, when we talk about data, it's not just the numbers, but text, pictures, web pages, audio, video. Data has been expanded to virtually everything. What you collect, that is what is considered data. The context associated, but it can be very, very broad. When we investigate data, we usually break it down into what we call variables, right? A word you should be familiar with. The variables are then broken into multiple types, such as categorical, quantitative, ordinal. Those are the types of data. Now, good news for us, all right, most of data breaks down into quantitative and categorical variables. That is without a doubt the biggest thing we do in statistics. We identify what is quantitative data and what is categorical data. So quantitative data is the one that you should be most familiar with, the actual number type data, all right? Quote, number type data. Two types of number type data, all right, which is discrete variables, all right? That is actually integer values. Like when someone asks you your age, you say, oh, I'm 27, right? You don't say I'm 27.9132, blah, 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 all right? And so that actually is discrete data, integer type values. Then continuous data, all right, is something that has all those decimals. So your age, notice, I can classify that as either discrete or continuous because your age is technically a continuous value, a number that goes on forever and increases, right, every nanosecond that passes. But when we state, all right, our age, we state it as a discrete variable. Okay, so two types of quantitative data. The other big type of data we're going to focus on is categorical. Now, there's lots of subtypes of categorical data, but generally you can think of categorical data as word data, things that you say with a word. One big type is binary, all right, dichotomous variables. Yes, no, heads, tails, win, lose, right? Two response, all right, options of the variable. And notice that they were words, all right, when you actually say the outcome of that variable. The other one, all right, nominal variables, all right? So hair color, eye color, race, ethnicity. Okay. All of those, all right, have words attached to the response, all right, of that nominal variable. And the last one is ordinal. And ordinal is still a word, but it's a word with a ranking. So, for example, all right, places in a race, first, second, and third. Now, first isn't exactly a number in the way that we say a number, right? One is a number, all right, but first is kind of a ranking, all right, with a word with a ranking associated. So the point is this: there are three word type variables within categorical, but all right, overall, there are two main types of data that we're going to focus on in the entirety of this course: quantitative data, quote numbers, and categorical data, quote words. That is the vast majority of statistics, is differentiating, all right, between these two types, all right, of data. And that is what we are going to spend most of our time doing. Okay, so like I said, just wanted to get us off on the right foot so we can define statistics and you understand the difference between singular and plural statistics. All right, you have yourself a wonderful day. Lots more statistics to come.